talk about Zelda! Episode
3. A Link to the Past is, in my eyes, the second best two-dimensional Zelda. It returns to the original's gameplay style, amped up and ready for the SNES. The story this time round is that a seal was made hundreds of years ago by the Seven Sages. The seal was there to stop the evil Ganon from ever returning, imprisoning him in the Dark World, which was once the sacred realm before Ganon used the power of the Triforce to warp it into a sadistic land of darkness. In the present, an evil wizard by the name of Aghanim is trying to break the seal by kidnapping the 7 maidens that are descended from the sages, of which only Princess Zelda remains. In the dead of night, you are telepathically contacted by Princess Zelda, who reveals that she is being held in the castle dungeon. Your uncle tells you to stay put, at which point he leaves to save Zelda. However, you don't listen and find a way into the dungeon, at which point you find your uncle nearly dead on the floor. He passes on to you his sword and shield, telling you that Zelda is now your responsibility. After you rescue Zelda from the dungeon, you are taken to a sanctuary, where you're tasked with finding the 3 pendants to harness the Master Sword, and to save the 7 maidens from the Dark World, confront Aghanim and defeat Ganon to restore peace to both lands. If the title confuses you, then I should mention that this is in fact a prequel to the first 2 installments, hence the name, A Link to the Past. This doesn't really make sense, there's no time travel. In Japan it was called Triforce of the Gods, but it was changed to A Link to the Past in America because of Nintendo America's strict policies on religion in games, and I guess the rest of the world followed suit. Musically, this game is miles better than both Zelda 1 and 2 combined. There are various tracks that are very fitting and suitable for where and when they're played, and I actually find myself listening to some of the music on its own merits. The game certainly takes advantage of the SNES hardware, especially for an early title with a smooth-looking, consistent graphical style, and everything looks as it should do, despite colour palette limitations and such. The gameplay is, as previously mentioned, the original's base features with a huge upgrade. There are more items at your disposal to help you on the way, such as the hookshot, the ocarina, or flute at the time, upgrades, more secrets, and new core features to the series. The spin attack, which works by holding down B to do a 360-degree sword slash, and the revamped health system. Unlike previous games, where you would gain a whole heart as a health upgrade, now you must find 4 heart pieces to earn a health upgrade, which adds more of a reward to gaining an extra heart. Also the ability to cut grass, that's stuck for some reason. There are more dungeons in this game than the first one, with 13 instead of 9. Each one with different items and more complex and varied puzzles to the first game, but never too overcomplicated or arbitrary to the point of frustration. The overworld is bright, visually pleasing and fun to explore. The same goes for the Dark World, except it's a lot murkier and hostile. Did you know the game was the first SNES game to use an 8 megabit cartridge, which is 1 megabyte, instead of the standard 4 megabit, or 512 kilobytes cartridge at the time? The game did take away some useful features of the first game, such as picking up items with your sword, and more importantly, the ability to play dungeons out of order. In the first game, you could play through dungeons 2 to 8 in any order without setting foot in the first dungeon. I guess they did it to make the game have a more natural difficulty curve, so I think it's excusable. Did you know there's a secret room called the Chris Houlihan Room in the American version of the game? Chris Houlihan is believed to be the winner of a Nintendo Power Contest, where contestants would enter to have their name featured in a future Nintendo game. However, the winner was never revealed. What do you think? Is A Link to the Past worth it? Are there better Zelda titles to play first? Stay tuned, like and subscribe, because next week I'll talk about the series' first leap into the 3rd dimension with Ocarina of Time, only on Nerdtendo 64.